Looking to improve your employee retention? Start by perfecting your onboarding and training experience for new hires. Check out Trainual to see how they can help you scale your growth and make onboarding easier and more efficient than ever. Check out the link in the show description or on the Manufacturing Culture Podcast partner page at manufacturingculturepodcast.com. Hello, and welcome to the Manufacturing Culture Podcast, where we explore company culture and the fascinating world of manufacturing. I'm your host, Jim Mayer. This week, we have an exceptional group of guests joining us from the Wemoco CTE program in Spencerport, New York. I want to introduce a true hero in the manufacturing industry, Scott Prince, and a group of young people who are the future of manufacturing. Scott is a seasoned professional in the welding industry with over 30 years of experience and a background in pipe welding, process piping, and pressure vessels. Currently holding certifications as a CWI CWE and a level 2 in NDT with expertise in visual testing, magnetic particle testing, and penetrant testing processes, Scott is a driving force behind a 2-year program for junior and senior students. With a combined total of 80 students, the program offers a range of learning opportunities, including arc welding, plasma, fabrication layout, and blueprint reading. In this episode, we'll dive into the importance of manufacturing education and how programs like these shape the industry's future, as well as pick the minds of the future of the industry to see what their challenges are and what they're looking for in their careers from companies that employ them. So sit back, relax, and let's talk about the culture of manufacturing. Hey, Scott, how are you doing today?
I'm good. Yourself?
I'm doing fantastic, man. I really appreciate having you on. You guys taking the time out of your busy days and course schedules and everything to join us. Thank you very much.
No, thank you. We've been looking forward to this. We've been waiting.
Well, let's wait no longer. Let's get this kicked off. So, Scott, I know you have a couple of current students, a couple of former students, and another special guest with you today. Can you introduce the students and your other guests there?
I sure can. So I have with me my current student, Mika and Noah. We have 2 former students, like I said, who are on their way. And I have Nate Bowman. We refer to him as the Weld Scientist. He's a very good friend of mine, very knowledgeable, and very big with the educational part of our industry.
That's awesome. Nate, welcome. Thanks for being on.
Hey, thanks for the invite. I appreciate it.
Absolutely. So, Nate, tell us a little bit about this Weld Scientist and what your role is here with the program.
Yeah, so I own a company called Weld Science, and I'm the director of welding optimization and education for a very large regional welding supply company in the Pacific Northwest. And I specialize in procedure development, welding education, weld testing, and welding research and development. So I, have an opportunity through Lincoln Electric to travel across the country and do hands-on training events at schools kind of my choosing. And, my relationship with Scott has been really awesome. I came out here last year with a tour that I did called Weld Labs with another industry professional, and thought it would be a good idea to come back and, kind of follow up on what we started.
That's awesome. That's so cool. And so did I hear Scott correctly? Are you there to help prep for an upcoming competition?
Yeah. So one of the students is headed to Skills USA. And one of the things that we've done is kind of just work through the real world, just the problems that you face when you get to an event like that. How to set the machine. What are the things that are going to come up? How do you adjust the machine? How do you handle what's about to happen? So we try and keep things as realistic as possible, and we've just been running a lot of test plates and giving feedback in real time, and a lot of time looking over the shoulder.
That's great. That's great. So Scott, first question I have for you today is, with that unbelievable experience that you have, what inspired you to take this role in a manufacturing education program?
So I'm directly out of manufacturing. My whole career I've learned through the trade. No college education, straight through the trade. Came up under the tutelage of my father and a lot of really, really smart people that have that old school, work mentality.
Sure.
Once I had gotten my CWI, I started to do more testing and working with welders. And with the way the economy is and the amount of welding jobs that are coming up, I noticed that we were getting younger guys, and there was I don't want to say, maybe call it a disconnect.
Mm-hmm.
And doing something as simple as a 2G groove weld was very difficult. And the company that I was working for at that time, it said, what are we going to do? I mean, you would have 10 applicants, and out of 10 applicants, you might have one that was good. So and if you had 5 positions, you could go through as many as 50 people, which was really hard to find.
Mm-hmm.
And then we were starting to see a group of kids coming out of school, and they had a basic skill set, but it wasn't quite there.
Got it.
So I decided, when I got this is, how do I help? And so there's 2 programs at this school that we have, 2 welding programs.
Okay.
And the other teacher was a friend of mine, and they were adding the second program. And he says, well, why don't you throw your hat in the ring and let's see what happens? I said, okay. And I came through their process, and we got going, and here we are today. And my goal with these kids is to make sure that they have an understanding of what's going to be coming at them, as in new technology, proper weld procedures, how to read them, understand them, and execute their skill.
Yeah.
We do a lot of bending here. We do a lot of fillet weld breaks. We do a lot of macro. We're constantly looking at welds. We doing a lot of fabrication. Currently, my senior classes just started doing stuff for a fundraiser for Skills USA to help raise their money for these guys to go compete, to help bring the cost down.
That's awesome. That's awesome. So you've got a little bit of collaboration from the rest of the students to see others succeed in these competitions, huh?
Yes.
That's awesome. So Scott, what you mentioned the technology of the future of welding. What does that look like? What do you think is coming down that these students that are coming through your program are going to be uniquely trained to face?
Well, to be perfectly honest with you, this technology is evolving very rapidly. I mean, we're talking cobots now, robotic welding, laser beam welding. Problem is you're getting into manufacturing and you're not have enough people to cover a lot of these positions. So people like Lincoln are using a lot of cobots, and that they're trying to help find other ways to offset by maybe taking students in that and giving them those opportunities to learn this stuff so they could go in and help a company. We have, like I said, I'm a fairly new program. So when we built this on what does the next 10 years look like?
Got it.
And we went with a lot of power wave technology where we can use waveforms, we're all in one machines, and it's just, here's a flip of a button and we are doing our thing.
Yeah.
As for the technical side of that aspect, I would almost refer that to Nate. He's way more in depth with that stuff than I currently am. I mean, as for the newer technology, I'm still behind him on it. So like he's onto it before I am. So Nate, why don't you tell him what you're seeing?
Well, I think like a couple things are happening in the industry. Just like Scott said, the technology is, becoming more and more prevalent in our industry. And it's kind of funny because, a lot of the older school folks in the industry are like, man, these kids in their damn phones and, like nobody, everybody's got a screen in front of them. And well, new welders have screens. Cobots have tablets attached to them. And that kind of stuff is a lot easier for the next generation of welders.
Sure.
And, so having a program that has welders with screens, that has cobots, that has this new technology in there gives, the students a leg up on what to expect out in the industry. There's a lot of programs out there that are still spending a year teaching stick welding. And, you can go out, you could spend, not that stick welding is not a good thing to learn, but, you can spend a year in a school learning stick welding and then you get put in front of a machine that's a MIG welder.
Sure.
It's just, there's a disconnect there. So, where Scott really shines in this space is, he's come from the industry. He's worked in this area. He understands the needs that the industry faces because he was a welder in the industry. And now he's doing inspection. So he knows, he has expectations for what people need to be doing when they come out of school or when they come in to apply for a position. And he applies that knowledge to, equipment selection and, lesson planning and that kind of stuff. So that's kind of why I'm here, is because I've kind of made a career out of showcasing welding technology. So, yeah.
Very cool. And so is Noah and Mika there with you right now?
Yes,
they're right here.
Awesome. So Noah, Mika, as current students, what motivated you to join this program? And really, how do you think the program's training you so far for the future?
Well, I didn't really have any motivation. It was just I wanted to do it. It's something I knew I wanted to do. I had an inspiration that I saw in a U.S. history textbook, and now I'm here.
Wow. Okay. And was that Noah?
Yes.
Okay. And Mika, what was how did you get into this program?
I started off learning how to weld when I learned how to blacksmith. And I was doing that a couple of years before I was sitting in my counselor's office when I figured out about the Wemoco programs. And she gave me a pamphlet and said, which one do you want to do? And I was looking over it. And at first, I didn't know what welding was until I looked over a couple of videos, like what real welding was.
Sure.
And then I looked over what it was. And I remember coming back to her. And I was like, I want to do this program. But I was like, I want to know what they do in there first. So I remember she had contacted the counselor here and then got a few information, and they sat me down and they talked me through it. And I was like, I want to do this. This sounds absolutely amazing.
That's awesome. And so what have, both for you, Mika, and for Noah, what have been some of the biggest challenges that you faced getting involved in this program, or learning this trade over the last couple of years?
It's definitely been a lot of paying attention, plus the things I've learned about myself, the cockiness and being humble, very important. Something a big lesson that Mr. Prince has been teaching me for the last 2 years. I still haven't gotten a hold of it.
What about you, Mika?
It's taught me a lot of patience. I have really bad anxiety, and I'll get myself really worked up about something, and then because welding, you have to be super patient with certain things, and you just gotta let it go the way that it goes sometimes. And it's not only taught me patience, but it's also helped me manage my own mentality with this whole thing. It's been able to help me keep a calm mind, but not rush through things.
Okay. And Noah, you were recently just hired on somewhere. Is that correct?
Yep, I was hired on at ProTech as a apprentice.
Fantastic. And how long is that apprenticeship program?
It is going to the end of the school year.
Very cool. Very cool. So what's next then, Noah? What's next for you after the apprenticeship program? Do you have companies that you're looking to join? And if so, what does that look like? What does the role look like? What kind of company are you looking to join?
Well, I didn't really have any companies in mind. I was hoping that I could maybe stay at ProTech if they'd consider it.
Okay.
But other than that, I really had no other idea beside starting my own little welding business and going to do odd jobs for my uncle.
Okay. And Mika, what's next for you after you graduate?
I've not really thought about it yet. I've been looking at the Lincoln Electric School out in Ohio. I've also been looking at a couple of other trade schools. I don't really know yet. Off the top of my head, it's either that or I'm gonna try to go straight into the workforce. But that's if I'm not dead set on a trade school.
Sure. So, what advice, Mika, do you have for companies looking to hire young welders? What are people like you and Noah looking for as you go into the workforce? As far as this is a manufacturing culture podcast, so we're talking about culture of organization. So how can companies frame their culture to attract young professional welders like yourself?
So give us a chance. We always got to start somewhere.
Sure.
No matter where we are, we always got to start somewhere.
Okay. Noah?
Pretty much what she said. She summed it up.
All right. So Scott, how do you measure the success of the program there? And what kind of goals do you have for continual growth and development of the program?
So I look at a victory for me is when I see these kids pass a bend test or they go to work. That's the victory that I have, because if they've made it that far, then I know that they got the right tools and I don't have to really worry about it. They know they can always call me and they know that I have their back.
Sure.
My job, I push them like I was pushed.
Okay.
And that's where, I when I see that success, like when they give you your first set of bends and they're clean, or here, look, I built this project and it looks amazing. That's success. That's winning.
Yeah.
I don't feel like I have anything to prove to anybody. I just want I want to have relationships with these kids. Like, one of the biggest things I tell them, it's okay to fail.
Sure.
Because you're going to learn from your mistakes. If nobody failed, we wouldn't have, what would you have?
Right.
Yes. And I fail. I'm okay with it. I tell them, I make mistakes.
Yep.
I learn from them. This isn't about always just welding too. We incorporate a lot of life lessons into this. And that was one of the things that was brought to my attention when I first started this. It's not all about what goes on in that shop too. It's about how you can apply it to life.
Yeah. I like it. Nate, I want to go back to the evolution of the welding industry.
Sure.
What specific skills or knowledge do you feel is absolutely critical for young people to have to be successful in this industry moving forward?
I think that just having an open mind, it's kind of like two-sided. I think that, industry needs to give younger kids a chance, and, give them an opportunity for success, listen to what they have to say, because they're coming from outside the box. And there's a lot of really good ideas that come from that space.
Mm-hmm.
And if they don't do that, it's just, you get stuck into this, the way we've always done it kind of space. And that's not a good space to be, especially if you're trying to be a competitive business.
Sure.
So, I feel that businesses really need to kind of learn how to, to adapt to what the next generation looks like. Be maybe a little bit more open to new technology, or hearing what some of these younger folks have to say.
Well, especially if they're seeing this new technology in their programs, right? I mean,
Yeah.
they can go into some of these shops, at least here in Phoenix. It sounds like the technology that your students out there are utilizing and learning on is light years beyond some of the weld shops and fab shops that are here in Phoenix, and that I walk into almost every day.
Yeah, and that's very true. That's one of the reasons why I'm here. I mean, I have a whole series of videos. We shot 5 videos last year for Weld Labs. We did a kind of an educational tour, and in these 5 schools, there was an enormous range of skill in the instructor. I mean, every instructor was I would say highly skilled, but some instructors were brand new. Some instructors had years of welding experience. Some instructors had huge budgets for their
Sure.
program, and then other instructors had barely enough money to cover just the metal. And it's like, hey, we can't be running through a bunch of coupons in this class. Even though you guys are here to teach, we just don't have the metal to last the whole year. So another way that potential employers or whatever can help kind of bridge this gap would be reaching out to local schools and supporting the local schools, whether it's providing them with support on I don't know, like their advisory board, or providing them with scrap metal, or just going in and kind of setting those expectations for what they're after and what they want, what they'd like to see coming out of these schools.
Sure.
And if they're not getting students that are up to snuff or up to par, rather than just complaining about it, go jump on one of these advisory board meetings, with the Board of Education, because the Board of Education is not a bunch of people that weld. These are educational folks,
Right.
and they don't necessarily know. And I mean, this is a big problem, trying to figure out how do we bridge this gap.
Yeah, absolutely. So Scott, along those veins, what kind of support do you receive from local businesses or industry leaders? I know you've got Nate there and his partnership, but what else? What other support do you have from industry and local business there?
So a local company, Corbell, has been very good to us, donating steel and time, training with having some of their guys come in and work with these guys. I have another business called Dock Hardware. They build docks, and they give us like all their scrap pieces. I got a giant bin of scrap out in my shop that the kids can just go and use and work and train. And
that's cool.
Yeah, I mean, Shawnee Products has been another one. Their testing department will come in and put time in and do like visual inspection with the kids and show them, things in a weld that are bad, and they'll donate pipe and stuff like that for the kids to practice on.
Wow, that's awesome.
I just wanted to let you know as well that Cierra and Marissa have arrived.
Hello, Cierra and Marissa.
Hello.
So I've got one more question for Scott, then I've got a question for you two. So hang tight 1 second. Scott, talk to us about the availability of internships or apprenticeships there. Noah's got one set up through the end of the school year. What other opportunities are you seeing? And do you need more of that out there? Because I know in Phoenix, that's something that we're constantly struggling with. We're constantly trying to get businesses to take apprentices and take and provide internships. How's that going for you guys in New York there?
So we have a variety of different avenues we can take. Believe it or not, a lot of The union halls are very active in our programs. We have career days and stuff like that. They will come in. Local 46 has been very good with us out here as the sheet metal workers union.
Okay.
Believe it or not, that's where Cierra and Marissa are now.
Oh, really?
Yeah, they're in their apprenticeship program.
Very cool.
Local 13 has been very good with us. We have the RTMA, the Rochester Tooling Machining Association. They have a Finger Lakes Youth Apprenticeship Program where they do like company matching and stuff. Marissa was involved in that last year. She went to work for Acro Industries, and the year before that, Cierra was one of my first students. She was involved in that apprentice program as well.
That's great.
The companies come in and they would come here 1 day a week, and they would go there for 4 days, and they would work either before school or after school, however their schedules let.
Wow, that's very cool. So Cierra and Marissa, along that line there, how do you feel as graduates, this program and really technical education in general is preparing students for opportunities and jobs out in industry?
I think it's preparing us really well. I mean, the program pretty much turned my whole life around. Since I had both BOCES teachers, since Scott came in my first year, it's definitely nice having two different teachers to, they each both know a different side of welding. Like Scott is definitely more of the technical side since you have your CWI. And he can actually train us and get us ready for like cert testing and practice on cert testing. And it's definitely helped going out into the actual field because I know what to expect. And it's not just welding T-joints anymore. It's welding everything.
That's awesome. And was that Cierra? I'm sorry.
Yes.
I'm learning the sound of voices, the joy of not having you guys on the screen in front of me. So Marissa, how do you feel the program set you up?
Well, the same thing as Cierra. Welding literally turned my whole life around. I came in blindsided of what I was doing because I came in late actually, and Prince started around the same time I did, and he guided me every step of the way. He helped me go out into the field and get a job for my internship. He helped me get a job now through the union. I mean, the program altogether is just life altering. Like, you got to think of it and look at it in all directions, all scenarios. And if you don't, you're not going to get it.
So you both have said that this was life altering, right? Change your life, life altering.
Yes.
How so? Tell me your story. I mean, that's a bold statement to make. Tell me how this changed your life.
So I guess starting straight from scratch, school has never been a strong thing of mine. Was very hard for me, struggling, and I always knew I wanted to come to BOCES. And to start, I was not originally in the welding program. I was in a computer technology program. I came home the first day, and of course, my mom was out of town, and my dad had to deal with my emotions. And I started bawling my eyes out to him, saying, it's something I don't want to do, and all that. And actually, my friend at the time was like, oh, you should try welding. You seem like you'd be good at it. And I talked to the people at Wemoco. They got me in to tour the classes, and the first day they put me in welding, and I told them, I said, this is what I want to do. This is going to be my future. And ever since I got into welding, my grades went up at the time. I looked forward to actually coming to school. It wasn't a dreadful thing.
Wow.
And since I've made a career out of it.
So the career chose you, and that was Marissa, right?
That was
Cierra.
Cierra, sorry. Cierra, the career chose you.
In a way, I guess, yeah.
Wow. What about you, Marissa?
So I went to Spencerport High School and they do a tour of Wemoco, I guess you could say.
Yeah.
And you get to pick 2 classes to look at. One was welding, the other one was auto body. So I sat there during the welding. I watched everybody grind. I watched them cut. I watched the welds. I'm like, man, this is just so fascinating. It was just, I was in love from day one. It's like I just met my best friend.
Wow.
Oh, gee, thank you.
Oh, you're welcome.
It's so funny because like hearing this is Nate, by the way.
Yeah.
It's really funny hearing this because this is exactly what happened to me. Like I knew that I wanted to be a welder though, but I struggled in school and I was excited to get up and go to school in the morning because I got to go to a welding class and it, helped me get through school.
Wow.
And I don't know, welding, it's like, I hear this all the time, like everywhere I go all across the country,
Yeah.
I hear that like kids aren't motivated and they're not really, yeah, maybe some of them aren't, but for a lot of them, like welding kind of saves you.
That's awesome.
I mean-
Mika and Noah, did you have a similar experience?
Gives you a meaning.
Yeah. I definitely did. I've always struggled in school. And I personally, I just don't like going to like a normal school. Never have, and I probably won't for the next 2 months. But they initially, it got funny because initially my school was like when they said, let's try you in BOCES. For the longest time, I was iffy about it because I didn't know what it was about, and I had this like kind of fear of like, what if I didn't like it and I was stuck in it. But then they showed me the program, and then they told me the program, like what it was about, and then I was like, okay, I was really interested in it. And then this is the same thing with Cierra. As soon as I got into this, my grades started to get a little better, and then they got a lot better my junior year. And they're okay now, but
little bit of senioritis.
Graduating a little,
Yeah.
But I used to graduate with them. But my grades have definitely improved, and my actual like mental state going here has definitely improved. Just knowing that I have a place to go like this because it just interests me so much.
That's awesome. How about you, Noah?
It's been pretty good. Always wanted to be a welder, and I never really liked school either. I knew I wanted to be a welder, so I came here, and then finally got the chance to go out to work, and I actually started my job this week. Started a Tuesday.
Congratulations.
I walked in that shop. I was like a little kid walking into FAO Schwartz, jaw to the floor, super excited to start. I had an amazing first day.
That's awesome. That's awesome, man. So Scott, how many students do you have?
So there's 80. There's about roughly 80 in the program total. I have just about half.
Okay. And so how many are juniors versus graduating seniors each year?
So this year I've got roughly 20 seniors, and I started the year with 18 juniors. I lost a few because this just wasn't for them.
Okay.
So I've got like 13 now. And they're all doing exceptionally well.
That's
They
awesome.
come in, they do their work. We go to the shop. We pick things apart. This week, I think we've destroyed more pieces of metal than I ever have.
Sorry.
No, that's fine. It's been a good thing. I mean, they're taking interest. They're asking questions. And if I don't have the answer to that question, I don't lie to them. I'll tell you, I'll get back to you, and I'll go find it. That's what my job is. When people ask me, like, I've got 3 kids at home. I've got a son in the Navy. I've got a middle boy. He's working on his culinary, and my youngest one is doing cosmetology. And then I have my other kids. And if you get to one, you're like, how many kids do you have? Depending on where I'm at, I'll tell you, I got 3 or I got 30.
I like it.
And
I like it.
I will give these guys that kind of grief too. I mean, like I said, it's life lessons in here. Not
Yeah.
all about welding, it's life lessons. And as you see, there's 3 girls sitting here with me.
Yeah.
And these
Yeah.
3 girls, no disrespect to you, Noah, have excelled immensely.
That's so cool.
When you look for a welder, you should look for a female if there's one available. They pay attention to a lot of detail and they're very smart and they adapt very well. Not to say that Noah doesn't do an exceptionally well job, because he does. But if I had to take a group to war with me, I'm sitting with them all right now.
Wow.
And I'll say that too. You know, it's kind of funny because it's like, you know, it's like Women's Month, you know, and everybody's promoting like women in the trades and all that stuff. Every single school that I go to has a girl in the class, and she's probably the best welder in the class.
Wow.
And I'm not just making that up. I'm not just saying that. It's not on accident. Like,
I just wish more women weren't afraid to get into the trades.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because men nowadays in shops don't like it.
yeah,
They
tough.
are afraid of being overruled by a woman.
Or they come home crying.
Yeah.
So it sucks that we have to go through so much crap to be able to do what we want to do. So I wish trades just in general were promoted more in high schools instead of go to college. But on top of that, I also wish women weren't so afraid to get into trades.
I agree. I'm part of I graduated high school in 97. I was one of the last classes in my high school to have shop, right? It was called metal shop and wood shop back then. And I was one of the last fortunate enough to have that. But I was also at the same time, one of the first classes to be told that everybody needs to go to a 4-year university, right? And so you've got this entire generation of people who didn't look at trade. But what I'm finding, and Nate, this was going to be my next question to you, how are you finding that some of this, my generation, right, that Gen X, I guess, how are they affecting the amount of students that are going into skilled trades programs?
Yeah, that's a great question. And that's one of the, that's kind of my biggest mission, is to try and solve this problem, because, you know, welding and welders and trades people of all kind are looked at as like the dumb kids for some reason.
Or the dirtiest.
Yeah, or like the dirt. Yeah, exactly. And that was the same when I was in school. Like, when I told my guidance counselor and teachers that I wanted to be a welder, they're like, huh, yeah, that suits you. Because I was like working for like a roofing crew, you know, at the time. And they're like, yeah, no shit, you're going to be a welder. Like, we get it, you know, like you're barely passing class.
Right. But
they painted me into this box that I wasn't this smart kid, even though I love science and math. And it's like, your science and math teachers, even, that when they hear that you're working in the trades, they don't necessarily, not my science teacher, but other science teachers and math teachers and stuff, when they hear you're going to work in the trades, they're like, they don't really push you on that educational side or whatever. But tradespeople it's never ending problem solving. That's what it is. You have to be smart. You have to be able to think on your feet. And so I'm trying to change kind of the narrative to guidance counselors and teachers and parents, that like, if your son or daughter or whatever wants to become a tradesperson, that's not a bad thing. That's actually a good thing. And we need that. Because I feel like a lot of parents, if their son or daughter came home and said, I want to be a welder, they're like, well, I thought you were going to be a dentist, or I thought you were going to go to college or whatever. And it's hard for someone that's 16, 17, 18 years old to face that pushback from people. And like, we can't pretend that it doesn't exist.
Right.
So as the weld scientist, I'm doing air quotes here. I feel that I need to, you know, since I have a voice in the industry, I need to promote the fact that this is not an industry of dumb people. This is an industry full of like smart, hardworking people. And it's something that we need to pay attention to. So
I agree. Go ahead.
I just graduated in 2021, and I remember the day I told my school that I wanted to switch into the welding program. I remember this one person saying, "You're not going to succeed."
Wow.
And now I like to show my success on Facebook and all that, because I can be like, "Yeah, look at me now."
Yeah, I just
Like,
I just bought a
proved you wrong.
Porsche. like literally, and I thought about posting it. I was like, oh no, I don't want to post it. But then I posted it and I was just like, you know what? I'm like, if I can do it, and I started in a high school welding program, it's just like, man, like in your face.
Absolutely. So, Mika, Marissa, Cierra, this question's 100% for you guys. And I think that it's unfortunate that you have to work harder than anybody else in the program or in the workplace because of your gender. I think that's a shame. How do you think companies in industry can adjust and be more inclusive of women welders moving forward to get more young women interested in the trade itself?
Honestly, it's kind of more like, it's hard to explain, but it's not really like they can do anything. It's more the people that work for the company that
Okay.
make you not want to be there. Like being sexually harassed at my old company, it happened on a daily basis. And you
Wow.
want to know what that company did? Absolutely nothing for me.
Wow. Well, that's one thing they could do. I mean,
they can try and do something more about it, but it's like, if it's a whole group of people, they're not going to fire a whole group of people just to keep one person.
Wow. What
And then
about the other two?
It's also like, no matter where you go, you're going to have to work hard. I just wish a lot of companies wouldn't base everything on gender. It doesn't matter about gender. Women can lift the same as men if they wanted to. I just wish that everything was equal. Like, we shouldn't have to work 10 times harder than half the men we work with just to prove ourselves.
Right.
Like, men sit there, do absolutely nothing on their phones all day, but yet they're getting rewards left and right, and we're sitting here busting our butt.
Yeah.
What about you, Marissa? What do you think?
I mean, it's definitely hard trying or being a woman going into a pretty much all man's trade just to prove yourself and other people that you can do it. You can push yourself this hard. You can lay this beat and make it look better than the men's who don't pay attention or just fiddle around all day. It's so much harder because it's so much pressure, and then all the guys just look at you like, what are you doing? And you're like, well, I gotta do this because if I don't, like, what are you gonna do? Like, it's very different being a woman compared to a man in a shop with a whole bunch of men because they just look at you like you're like littler than them, even though you are, but it's still like the point, like, I can do the same thing you can.
And what I feel bad for in industry right now is that these two girls are working together side by side every day. I pity the guys that decide they want to take them on, because I'm pretty sure I'll know, and I'll be like, that a girl.
I love it. I love it. So guys, last question for all four students here. Did you have any issues with parents giving pushback about your decision to join the trades?
Yeah.
It's not really from my parents. At my family, a little bit, yeah. Like my grandma, my grandparents especially, they were scared, but they were more scared of the fact of because I'm a female and I'd be going into a quote unquote male's trade.
Yeah.
And then I have another grandparent who's just horrified of the fact that I could, because in this trade it is very dangerous and you could get really hurt if you're not paying attention.
Oh, absolutely.
They were scared for like my own safety, or if something could happen, because something really could happen if I'm like not paying attention, or the fact that I'm a female and a tiny one too.
What about the other three?
I never really got any pushback. I was encouraged by everybody, all my teachers, my family. My family's been trade pro My dad's trade. My dad's side of the family is all trade. So I've been pushed to go into the trades. And I believed that I knew I didn't want to go to college. And so I saw that trades were the only option. So I went with it.
Got it.
I got full support the whole way through. I came home, decided what I wanted to do, and my parents and my brother were like, go for it. Like, don't let anything stop you. So
Good. I like it.
The only pushback I really got was from like teachers and everybody else. They would look at you like you're gonna be a welder. Like that's really what you want to do forever. And I'm just like, yeah, that is what I want to do forever. Everybody else supported me, like everybody. And my grandfather was a welder, so it's not like my family wasn't used to it. So
Yeah.
same
Cool.
with me. It's mainly the school that was the pushback, but for my family, it was full support.
Got it. Got it. Scott, Nate, any parting comments for the listeners of the podcast today?
The only thing I would tell everybody is whether, you're changing careers or you're starting young like these guys, if it's what you want to do, follow your belief and your passion. Don't do something that somebody else thinks you should do. I firmly believe that if you want to be a machinist or an electrician or a welder, you go and you try that. I mean, the worst case is what you thought it is, you didn't like, and you try something different. But follow your passions. Don't let anybody dictate your path.
Awesome. Nate?
Yeah, I just really appreciate the opportunity to, be on the podcast and, talk to these students and stuff. And I think that, just what was said here is like a reflection of what I'm seeing across the country. And, we need to get this story out there so that more people kind of understand that, this is the reality that we're facing. And the more people that we can get involved, the, sooner we can kind of solve this problem.
Yeah, absolutely. So, listeners, that's a wrap for today's episode of the Manufacturing Culture Podcast. I hope you enjoyed hearing from Scott and Nate and the students about the importance of manufacturing and manufacturing education and some of the challenges and struggles that they go through and what they're looking for out of their future, as much as I enjoyed talking to these people today. If you have any questions for Scott, for Nate, for the students, feel free to reach out to me at manufacturingculturepodcast.com. Join us again next time for another episode of the Manufacturing Culture Podcast, where we'll continue to explore the company cultures in the world of manufacturing. Until then, have a great day and keep making things.